supposed to, we'll see, but I'm like, this might be the last sweater of this season.
Big
And
deal, guys.
we even put heart earrings on to help support but if it's not, it's not. We'll go with the flow, but
Yep.
I'm hoping
We're
it
just gonna
is.
flow with it.
And not that you guys tuned in for a weather report, PS. We are so grateful, right?
So, as I was working in the
Part
yard
of our real
yesterday,
life. Yeah.
um, do you know what hit me?
What?
I have had quite a journey with money, and I feel like I haven't shared very much of it. So, do you mind if I take us on a little bit of a ride, just kind of telling my story with money?
100%.
Cool. So, um, my dad was a school teacher most of his career, and he would always tell people, "I've taken the vow of poverty," when he would tell people what he does for a living. And so that was kind of the programming of, around money is there's not only has he committed to being poor, but there's also like this sacred side of it, like it's because of it's part of my like vows with God. And he was joking, of course, right? But there was like he always kind of respected people who had money, but he never said it openly. It was always like, wow, what a beautiful home or how cool they get to travel. But there was also like, I've taken this vow almost subconsciously. So that was my programming. And it was deep. And when I met Natalie, um, she had thousands and thousands of dollars of debt, mostly school debt. Um, and And so and my assets was a mountain bike. So I didn't have a car. I didn't have real estate. Like I was literally living with my parents and I owned a bike. And and as we were moving towards marriage, I told her, um, you have this car that your dad has given you. It's a beat up pickup truck. And I really think it would be wise if we just, switch to bikes. If we could both ride our bikes to and from school and just kind of do the bike life, I think that'd be more economical and to bless her heart, she gave it a go. She actually totaled her truck about a month before we got married, so we were carless when we got married. And we lived with family for the first 2 years of married life. So we lived with my parents for a year, and then my aunt here in Alpine for a year, and then her aunt down in Springville. So that's how we launched our married life. And it's funny, I still remember after we moved from Provo to my aunt's house here in Alpine, I remember thinking these people here in Alpine are just the scum of the earth. Like all they think about is money. Like
Mm.
they're so self-centered and just on this mission just to be rich. And everybody was driving around in their SUVs, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're so self-centered. Like all they think about is themselves. And usually it's just one person driving around in this big fat SUV, just a gas guzzling SUV. And I just had so much judgment wrapped up around not only the people, but also their money um, and their way of life. I thought they were just on a fast track to hell because they were
Mhm.
so focused on themselves. Well, um, fast forward a few years, and I live in Alpine, and I have an SUV, and sometimes I'm the only one driving it. And relationship, my relationship to money has changed 1,000%. I started going to seminars, um, and I learned that money is just a tool, that money is totally neutral. I remember too, let's just back up a little bit. Um, I remember while we were like living in a crummy apartment and living with a family, I remember thinking, man, I just wish that there was a rich person out there who would like see us and believe in us and just give us this windfall of cash. Like multiple times, I remember seeing wealthy people and being like, man, I wonder, like I didn't believe in the lottery, but I did believe in the lottery. I was
Yeah.
totally banking on just this windfall. And so I started getting some training as we were starting doTERRA about money being a tool. Money was neutral. Money doesn't care who has it. That money is just this flow that if we create massive value, then we receive massive value back. And it's literally just one indicator of value created. And um, and I started reading books. I went to a seminar called um, The Millionaire Mind Intensive
Mm-hmm.
by T. Harv Eker.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this producer workshop with Mark Garrett, and it was actually hosted by Garrett White. So you remember Garrett back in the day,
Oh, yes.
and Garrett Gunderson, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
this Garrett trifecta, and so then, and I also started reading a book like Atlas Shrugged, um, and there's there's a lot of not so great stuff in that book, but the thing I really took away from that was there is so much beauty in being a producer. Like I really came to value that it doesn't matter if you get rich or not, but to be a producer matters. To be committed to just giving so much value to the world that, of course, someone's going to flow back to you, but that's not, it doesn't matter at that point. Like you've defined yourself by being a producer and not primarily consumer. And so, anyways, that's the really short version. Tiffany introduced us to a friend, to a book, the Law of Divine Compensation.
I love that you just started to say introduced us to a friend. I mean, a book, because it is like a great friend, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And
Mm-hmm.
Marianne Williamson she is a gift. She is a friend. And wow, so much goodness there. So, anyways, as I'm standing here in doing yard work in Alpine, Utah yesterday and watching SUVs drive by and zero judgment, like there's a
Yep.
guy across the street who has about $10 million in sports cars. And you know him, Tiffany.
Uh-huh. I've seen
Like
them.
he's a producer. Like
Totally.
he and his
And
wife,
they're such are the kindest people on the planet too.
they totally are. And here's the other thing I learned. Um, as I've gotten to know the people in Alpine, I've come to find that they are some of the most other-centric people on the planet. I could walk down this street and I could ask anything of these people, and they would give freely. And it's mostly because they have it. But it started with who they are. They are good, solid people. And this isn't true of everyone, but like I've just been so humbled by all of those judgments that I had 20 years ago when we first lived in Alpine, and just come to realize that yeah, the goal with money is to fall in love with the process of production and not the fruits. So if you fall in love with the money,
Hmm.
I've seen lots of people who stumble because of that. But man, if you fall in love with being a producer, that is a sweet life.
Hmm.
So, anyways, that's a really shortened and condensed version of my money journey, and so grateful to be where we are. Um, it's been a ride. DoTerra is such a good like mirror to look at and see how you're showing up in the world, and yeah, so good.
Hmm. I love that you're opening this conversation, and I'd invite all of you listening, whether you're here live or listening to this back on replay, is to literally write down that journal prompt and that question and looking at for yourself, what is my relationship with money? What are your core thoughts and feelings, memories that you have with money? Because all of you are in a relationship with money, some of you know, once a year I teach a class called Money Mindset, tucked into my Mindset Makeover course. And it's one of 4 weeks that we go deep on. But some of that I'll just share here is this awareness that you are in relationship with money and the energy, just like you are in a relationship with a friend or your spouse, like energy's everything once again, and how we navigate with this. And I think it's just looking at how do I help, have a healthier, happier, more vibrant relationship. Just like you want to feel a vibrancy with your spouse or your dear friends, your kids, it's one of those potent things to look at. How do I come into greater harmony and alignment with that relationship? And I appreciate, Andy, your vulnerability and openness of like, oh my gosh, look at how I used to think and my judgments, because we all have thoughts and feelings about money, whether for positive, for negative. Money is technically neutral, right?
Mhm.
It's just like water is neutral, but water can be life giving and water can be lethal, right? Just based on how it's being used. If you think about water, is water good or bad? Water's neutral. In certain scenarios, it can be literally, we have to have it. It's life giving. And it's also, though, in certain, like you think about a tsunami or you think about water that's, not in movement, not in flow, and it becomes very stagnant. A lot of bacteria grows in it that can become very detrimental. And so it's just thinking about, again, the environment the money is in, the energy the money is in, the intention, like you're saying. So I love that you've opened up this conversation and how we come back into this. I just finished literally yesterday a newer book recommended and referred to me about money. I have my classics I put in the chat box things. I'll just say them so they're also on the recording. But, like Andy mentioned, The Law of Divine Compensation, phenomenal book. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, the book Think and Grow Rich, classic personal development about money, but about your thinking, period, is Napoleon Hill's work. And then this book I just finished yesterday is called Love Money, Money Loves You. And while I don't agree with everything taught in that whole book or all of the books necessarily, the core message of that book is so good around energetic alignment. And something she's talking about is money has everything attached to our contribution. So when Andy was saying, a lot of it is, getting in the flow of service and giving back and contribution is money follows that, right? Is the concept of how do I add more value? How do I give more? How do I take more action? Contribution, though, is one of those potent things. And then I also, a book that was hugely healing for me many years ago, 20 plus years ago, I read a book by Susie Orman. I don't even know if this would be in print anymore, but it's a book called The Courage to Be Rich. The courage to be rich. And for me, that really helped me identify my first memories with money and what I made that mean, right? Sometimes Andy will remind us that we're meaning making creatures. And what am I making this mean? And he was making it mean if you were driving an SUV, living in Alpine, the meaning attachment used to be, gosh, hey, this is what that means about that person. And I just had my own experiences with healing and growing with money. I used to have a lot more fear in my money relationship, right? Like even when my savings account, it's like, there was always this, but what if, and the fears. And so it became clear to me years ago of like, even though I had at one point, this is rewind the clock many moons ago, it was like I had a savings account that I could sustain my current lifestyle for probably 2 plus years. And but it was still, the fear was still running my money show. And so it was how to help yourself heal some of this and be intentional about it. So thank you for this rich conversation. There's something that when I was thinking about what do I want to share today, what's on my heart, and it goes right along with this. So I love that we're synced. There's a quote that I've seen on social many times, but I heard someone say this somewhere in the last week around consume less and create more. Consume less, create more. Now they're referring to, say, scrolling social media, content that you're consuming. And even in this case, like being here on this call with us, my intention for you is after this call is go take action, go call or contact 5 people, reach out to your leaders, take action on certain things, but consume less, create more. And I just added, because I already had that written in my planner for the week, consume less, create more is also contribute more. is consume less, contribute more. Is again, if you're saying, I want, if you choose to listen to that book I've just wrapped up, but the gist, one of the key things was, or takeaways from that was, I need to be in contribution, or in essence, service, giving back, taking action. Is we love holding the space for you and with you to come get filled up, but then go take action. Because sometimes we can get on this call and then we go listen to another podcast, we read more books, we do these things. And we do want you to, of course, we want you supporting your mindset. We want you reading and listening. And there also has to be a balance that sometimes we can let that be an excuse where we're getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to host the class, make the phone calls, send the texts, do the things where we can actually be enrolling people and what I'd call RPAs, revenue producing activities, where you're in action of that. So it's one of these things. So it's yes, and it's both is I want you taking action, but also looking at what is my relationship to money? What's the vibe about it? Are you in flow and trust right now, or are you in fear and stress? You can feel it in your body instantly. Am I in constriction like about this? Where have your thoughts been the last 24 to 48 hours? Where have your thoughts been about money? And does it feel like flow and trust and ease, or does it feel like fear and stress? And just realizing we're not right or wrong for that, but it's just choosing more intentionally to say, okay, flow and trust, and how I'm going to drop into some of that abundance and how that practice now. Andy, anything else you want to add to that? So proud of you that you have brought up this conversation for us to look at.
Yeah, it's funny how uh, money is a great opportunity to look at, do I put others in a pit or on a pedestal?
Mm,
Uh, I'm sure you're mostly familiar with um, that whole comparison game of do I put others above me, like they're better than, or do I put them below me, not as good as? And that's such a trap, right? It's you're focused on the wrong thing when that's where your head is going. When you're focused on um, the pit and pedestal conversation. Um, so there was a question in the chat from Victoria. How do you fall in love with being a producer? Um, and I think she means without being attached to the fruits of your labor. Because that was really the big aha for me was my fears weren't around like scarcity or not having enough. My fears were um, does it was the meaning. If you are rich, does that mean that you've abandoned your values? Like
mm,
it's easier for a camel to get into heaven than you know, or a rich man to get in for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get in heaven. And so I created all these stories around what that meant, and so I was being attached to the fruits. I was linking meaning to the actual results. Um, so my very favorite resource on releasing attachments is actually A Course in Miracles. And again, this is a book that Marianne Williamson has spent, I don't know how many decades of her life teaching from and guiding people through. But I just love the audacity of the title. Like, hey, you want to know how to do miracles? Here's a little course. You know, it's
yeah.
a little workshop in miracles.
That's so good.
It really is. And there's a daily visualization where you look around the room and you say, this cup means nothing to me. That table means nothing to me. And you just kind of practice detaching from the physical world. And I
Mhm,
think that was a really useful exercise for me
mhm,
going through the Course in Miracles. Um, Life is a really good teacher if you let it be. If you're willing to just be brave and um, and fail
mhm,
really fast. Like failing faster has been one of our mantras. done so much good for us. Being willing to, try this business. Oh, that didn't work. That was fun. Let's try something else. And same thing with doTERRA. Like as you're contacting, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
And failing faster. So I guess, Tiff, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you get
I
into that
love
mindset?
this. Yes, and I love part of like the falling in love quote with the process, the experience, similar like when you mentioned yard work or gardening. Number one is the gardening ever fully done, you know? But I love having my hands in the dirt. And this may or may not be your thing, but there are various things that you can relate to. I love the process. Anyone else love to garden, love to do some yard work, especially again, beautiful, perfect temperature, birds chirping. I might even sometimes put on music. Sometimes I want just the silence because I want to hear Mother Earth just talking and speaking, the birds, the energy, the vibration. But there are times I'll listen to a podcast, see all the yeses in the chat box is literally just the process of gardening, the weeding, the planting, the nourishing. Um, and again, for some of you, it might be cooking, the process of making the meal, putting it together, being invested in that. It's similar, it's like your health and wellness. You don't work out once and have a really rocking workout and you're fit and toned the rest of your life. It's an ongoing process that we're committed to and that we fall in love with the process. Well, similar that how all of us make, quote, money is through adding value and contributing to other people's lives, right? And so the process of contacting, connecting, what you're really after is a connection. And whether that's from a simple text to an email to a DM to a phone call to a walk and talk to having, someone over to dinner or hosting a class, consider the ambiance, the energy, the creation, what you're doing there, but we're connecting and then we're sharing and we're saying, hey, and we're practicing not taking it personally because that's a practice, but it really is just about you making the offering. You guys, I have been reading an amazing book that's not about personal development at all, but in some ways it is. But I've been reading a book called Braiding Sweetgrass. As of like a few weeks ago, it was even a free download on, it's a best-selling book, but it was a free download on Audible, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer. Have any of you read this book? I think it's Robin Kimmerer. Um, and just thinking about this, but she's this beautiful botanist, Native American, and teaching about some of these things. Well, I found this book in this tiny little bookstore in Ridgway, Colorado. Ridgway, Colorado is such a tiny little town. It's where my in-laws live. And we stopped in there on our way home, and it's this beautiful thing. I was just drawn to this book. I'm so glad that I picked it up. Here's why I'm telling you this is just the way the earth. Do you think that the daffodils you walked by yesterday, that's just top of mind, or the strawberries or the grass or the whatever, feel bad if you don't notice them or take them home with you or pick the strawberries or pick the raspberries? But it's like the earth is regularly just offering love and value. The earth is regularly offering beauty and just offering this generosity because it's just who it is. And you know what, guys? This is who you are. When you get to the core for all of you, even if you have different beliefs, religiously, spiritually, what you believe in, don't believe in, respect it all. But if we strip all of us are a being of love. Again, I realize that's inserting a belief, but you think about what's all religion trying to help you live? Love. That's what it means. When I hear like, oh, I love the gospel, I love love, is when you truly, any spiritual path is about love. And you think about Mother Earth just regularly offering this beauty. Anyway, I know I'm waxing pretty poetic. I love this book. It so
Mm.
brought me to where like my love of the earth and how well provided for we are has come from reading this book. Again, this is called Braiding Sweetgrass. I have loved it. And it just reminds me, though, is how do you fall in love with the offering? versus the attachment to they have to buy. Because a lot of you make buying, if they buy, I must be doing this right. If they don't buy, I must be doing this wrong. It means nothing. It means, can you be the offering? Can you be the invitation for people to be healthier and happier? That's all of your missions with doTERRA. I want to help people be the healthier, happier versions of themselves. Can I practice that myself? Can I make the offer again and again? And the process of gardening. Many of you said you love gardening. Some of you love cooking or you love painting or creating art. It's the same exact thing as the process is I just want to keep, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to call, I'm going to contact, connect. How are you? How's life? How can I support you? And we're just in this conversation on a regular basis.
So good. Love this conversation.
Yeah, just rich. I'm so glad you brought this up because, again, a lot of times where we snag ourselves as humans, we complicate it versus I'm just going to be love.
Hmm.
And love is going to use her phone or his phone and text people and put out little love invitations. Even though we're not saying, hey, can I invite you to a love gathering? You might say, I mean, it might be called that, but it's more so that you're just about the business. That's one of the
Hmm.
things I love in the book, The Law of Divine Compensation. She says your ministry is your business, or your business is your ministry. Your business is a form of ministry. It's how you're ministering to people. Does that make sense? Have that
So
have
true.
resonance? And so then you think about it, and then sometimes, but is it okay to make money from that? Absolutely.
Hmm.
It's just in essence saying, can I receive water for giving water?
Hmm.
Can I receive nourishment? All a sale is an exchange of value. I did a sales training for a gorgeous talk about. She lives up in Alpine with you guys too, and she's good friends with Shauna as well. And we sometimes get together, but a great, beautiful, you guys want to follow an inspiring account online is Alice Lane Home. And they have a storefront here in Utah, and they do homes all over the map, but they are gorgeous home design. And I did sales training for their sales team last Friday in person. And we were talking about this very thing that a sale, because again, a lot of these of their employees have design degrees. They're like, I'm a designer, I'm an interior designer. Guess what? Welcome to sales. Oh, I'm an aromatherapist. Welcome to sales. I'm a school principal. Welcome to sales. Like understanding that all a technical sale is an exchange of value. And we're learning to ask good questions and help people get their needs met. So, anyway, it's so powerful, you guys, when we drop into truly the energy and the intention. And then it's like we can help by doing that, you help clean up some of this energy that might be taking you out of flow and out of alignment.
So good. Becky asked a question, Tiff, I'd love to get your take on. How do you know if you have a good relationship with money? I think I do, but anything good, uh, ways to know if I have a good relationship with money? That's your question.
Well, I think the easiest way is just like, how do I feel about it? Right? Like, how does it feel for you, Becky? And are you thrilled and satisfied too? Like, I'm just great. It just feels like it's in a great flow, how it's coming in. You're feeling good about it. Is there a space? I do think one of the things we can all look at is capacity. I love the book, The Big Leap around this is like our ability and capacity to receive more. And that receiving more, I also love this is in The Science of Getting Rich too, his book, that, having desires. Do any of you feel guilty ever having desires for more? Anyone feel guilty about that ever? Because sometimes we're taught, right? Like, oh, be grateful, be grateful, be grateful, which is also true. But desire is from a spiritual context. And it's just this a willingness, like desire has this element. Sorry, my dog's just like must be, he's manning the neighborhood in the background. Someone's walking by with a dog and he needs to let me know all is well. But the reality of thinking desire is just this essence that's wanting growth, right? So you just think about like, oh, growing and desire. That's one of the things why, and this is going to sound like a plug, but it's truly, this is my process in a journal, my
Mm.
creation journal. Why I love this is, the power of this is like your daily pages is gratitude, and which is the best way. to then drop into what am I manifesting? What am I calling in? Right. This is why I call it my creation journal versus my gratitude journal, because you're creating in here again and again and again. But they can be together simultaneously. Is you can be in gratitude, deep gratitude, and in desire at the same time. It's not either or. Like I'm either really grateful that I have a roof over my head, yet my husband and I are looking at another home tonight. Aren't we grateful we already have homes? Yes, but we're also looking for another home that we put our lives together in. But it's like we can have both. I'm so grateful for the home I have right now. It's so beautiful. I love this home. And I'm excited for another home.
Yeah.
And I'm manifesting that into my life. I'm so grateful for the clientele I have now and I work with and I love. And I'm ready to attract some new clients that are also ready to grow. You can have desire and growth, or excuse me, you can have gratitude and growth, or the other word, desire, at the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. I love these things. And I love Kathy's comment. Yes, was taught that girls don't make too much money to outshine men. We could
Oh
talk,
man.
we could do a whole session on that because that's me.
We
I
we
mean,
had
that was
a
my whole life, right?
we
Forever.
had a we had a couple on our team that
Hmm.
he had this block. He was like, he told his wife straight up, if you make 10 grand a month or more, I'm leaving you. And he did. She got to Blue Diamond and he left her. And it was so fascinating to me. Like, wow, the stories we make around,
Hmm.
money and who can and can't and what it means and worthy. And oh my goodness, it's such a fascinating conversation for me. Yeah, it's so rich to use a play on words.
Mm. Yeah, it's so true. And so again, Andy just stoked the fear and it's good because it's just like, well, wait, if I do this, and it might. And then we trust. But the bigger issue isn't the money. It's
Right.
that made that gentleman who
Mhm.
she was married to was provoking and poking his insecurities. Money means
Yeah.
nothing. It's like if I bring home 10 gallons worth of 10 gallons of water a month, is that going to be a problem in our marriage? And it's like, I'm going to lose my mind as you're bringing home water. That's what money is a sense of life force. Again,
Yep.
how we use it. And
Yeah.
so his insecurities there. But
Yeah.
guys, I mean, again, we could do a whole class on that, is that fear, especially for women. How many of you as ladies that are here, I know we have a mix, but how many women would you weigh in on that, have had a fear or had some kind of discomfort or belief that like I can't outshine my husband or make more money than my husband, or no one will want to date me if I'm too successful.
Mm.
Guys, this was my life for so long. Andy knows this. It's like we just brought
Yeah.
up one of Tiff's issues. I was single for a while. I was married and divorced and single for a while, dated a lot. And I would get told regularly, "Oh my gosh, I bet you're just so intimidating." And I'm like, "I'm the most natural, down to earth person you can hang out with, for reals." However, perception's everything and you can't control that. And the bigger issue wasn't the men, guys. I had to make peace with. And once I made peace with, like, I'm going to be me. And yes, I didn't like pursue business to make all this money. I'm a passionate woman about helping people change their lives. And me pursuing the passion made a lot of money come forward because the exchange of value I was offering to people's lives. And so anyway, it's just one of those things that I got to heal that myself, was like, ooh, don't be too successful because then you're going to scare off any great man from wanting to date you. Now, there are dynamics energetically about masculine and feminine and being aware of those dynamics, right? Of how you show up and the energies that you were in. But I'm with a very masculine man who is a man and handles his own life and business, and he's so sexy. P.S. By the way, gosh, what are we talking about? I just adore him, and he totally champions me to be who I am. And you can create massive amounts of success and wealth being in your feminine as well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
feminine is actually quite creative, guys. I mean, you talk about creation and the womb and the energy of that, whether you're having babies, not having babies, having cycles, not having cycles, like men and
Women,
are both, we're wired to create. Like men and women are creators. So,
women are basically 3D printers.
yeah. Oh yeah, tell us more about that, what you mean, because you're married to this incredible woman,
I'm
and you
just talking
two
about the
together.
ability to make a baby. Like,
Yeah.
holy smokes. Like
Yeah.
he just created a life in you. It's so
Mm-hmm.
mind-blowing. It's, yeah, in the highest, holiest, most beautiful sense of
Totally.
nature.
That all of you are creators, and all things are created twice, first mentally or spiritually, and second into physical formation. And that's why when we talk a lot on other calls and scenarios, is we talk a lot about visiting your vision and seeing in your mind's eye. It's just like where you're living right now. How many times before that home was, quote, built, I'd been to
Mhm,
that space probably 10, 12 times with you, at least in the process of it becoming together,
mhm,
coming into formation.
mhm. Yeah. So
Yeah,
uh, I
this is
love this. I love this conversation of like what one of the greatest limiters is when we think in terms of either or, right? So either my husband has to make more money or I have to make more money, and that's the only options that I see, right?
perfect.
And and by very nature, limiters restrict growth. They restrict progress. And and so what are some alternatives to that reality? Um, that my husband and I are, if you're a woman, my partner and I are more powerful if we choose to create together. Like to me, that's a far more expansive and powerful possibility than we have to constantly be checking who's creating more, who's creating less, who's, what does that mean? It's like, yeah, just throw out that whole either or scenario and just lean into we are both producers and we both have different strengths. And when we choose to collaborate, 1 + 1 = 1,000,000. It's literally no boundaries, no limit to what's possible.
Hmm.
So that's what Natalie and I have chosen to lean into. And that's one of my greatest joys is choosing to create with her and and see what we can create. I remember one of our friends when he walked through our house for one of the first times, he's like, "You have a tree in your event space." Like that tree was not cheap, and it wasn't easy to land on deciding that. He's like, I can't even imagine a universe where my wife and I could get on the same page around that tree,
Hmm. Yeah.
and their marriage did end. But it was, and that sounds bad now that I hear it come out of my mouth. Like that sounds like this comparison thing, but like it's just joy when you start to get curious, and live in the space of, I wonder what's possible. I wonder what we could create together. I wonder, um, you know, what kind of realms of creation we could step into
Mm-hmm.
and be creators together. Same page about.
Well, yeah, you guys all need to see this tree. It's epic. But I think again, a lot of it comes back to, and whether your spouse might be hearing this, might not be hearing this, in a relationship, not in a relationship, wherever you're at, but in partnership or relationships is you choose to be the person that can have open conversation, stay open and peaceful and get curious. I love the concept of curiosity. Teach me about what this means to you. And also realizing that sometimes in a partnership or relationship, someone might be out technically, quote, making more of the money, and someone might be more helping support the home, so to speak, or things with children and all the various ways. But those are all value add as what are we creating together? And that we're what we want to have happening with our home or our life, our situation, and realizing it's about value. And similar again, coming home to like the quote on my desk for the day. This is from Wayne Dyer, his Power of Intention little calendar, right? And it just flips the day. It says anonymously perform acts of kindness, expecting nothing in return, not even a thank you. And this is where we're back to gardening. You go plant the seed, right? And then you plant them and you water and you get your hands in that dirt. I love this example and I love doing this in real life. But it's just you plant those same seeds in your marriage and in relationships and friendships and sharing with, again, it's just who do you want to be on the planet? Because in relationships sometimes Wow. I mean, gosh, we could just be here for 3 hours today on all the things we're trying to like uncork. Andy Goddard, you
Right.
guys let us into the rich, nourishing, grab a hot mug of something because this is good. But a lot of times too is that then where we're in trouble in partnership is we have, well, you should be different than who you are. You should do something different versus staying open and curious that about whoever your partner is. You only control how you show up, loves. You don't control your partner and you don't control if people say yes to your business. You only can be the offering. So what are you going to offer your home, your sweetheart? What are you going to offer the planet? Like just like Mother Earth is offering regularly and it's just like doing that out of that joy and that energy. Hopefully I'm communicating what my feeling and energy is on this can be much more lighter and joyful than maybe it's been for many of you. That we get really in the weeds and it's heavy and it's thick and it's this and it's that. And I'm not saying there aren't real life things. And at times, me and my partner, we get to work on and have conversations and talk through things for sure. But it's mostly we get to practice each of us here. Who are we going to be? And what are you going to, and be the offering, be the invitation, as I like to say it sometimes. That's in some of my own goals language for me of possibility. Again, when it comes to doTERRA, you're the invitation for people to be the healthier, happier versions of themselves, their favorite self. And just like, okay. And similar though to your marriage is like the energy. What's the energy you're going to bring to your marriage today? Or this week or this season. Because sometimes in marriage, we're like, well, once they really show up in this way, then I'll be different. No, you just be different,
Mhm.
right? Once my husband or wife really, does the thing I want them to do in the way I want them to do it, then I'll go and be. Then I'll give them that. How about you just choose? I just want to be. It's just like the strawberry is not probably sitting there, which again, if you read this book, Braiding Sweetgrass, you'll know why I'm referencing that so much. But the strawberry isn't like, well, I'm only going to be super bright red if I'm praised and adored. No, the strawberry is just going to be bright red and juicy in this offering, regardless if you notice it or not. Is
Hmm.
this resonating with anyone today, or are we totally just like,
This is so good. I'm loving the
yeah,
comments. I,
yeah,
I'm trying to get caught up because there's
yeah, I need to get caught
so
up.
much
But you guys,
good.
this is good. But the point, come home and look at what is my relationship to money? What do I want it to be? What's my energy and vibe with my business? Am I in joy and just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Who do I get to talk to today? And your excitement versus like, oh my gosh, ugh, there we go. It's just like, where's your vibe? Where's your energy in your home, in your business? Like, where is it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, yeah, yeah, just good stuff. Okay, let's check in on all this stuff.
So somebody asked me if Natalie and I always agree on everything.
No, you don't. I've helped you
It's
guys navigate things many times. You're two
we
different
disagree
people.
so much. Oh my goodness, I've thought about writing a book on just our fights, like because building this house has been a journey of its own, you know. Um, and what's funny is even building this house, like you would think, oh, once you have resource, then 90% of your problems go away. Oh my goodness. We thought we were like really clear of a lot of our blocks, but the first architect that we chose to design our home and our event space, we spent 6 months with, and we chose him because he was the cheaper option. And he never caught the vision. It was a total waste of money and energy. We threw the whole plan away, started over with the architect that we really wanted in the first place. And then when it came time to choose the builder, we did the same thing. We chose a builder based on price. And we spent 6 years building the project instead of 2 years.
Mhm.
And we're triple the budget so far. And it's been an epic learning experience. And we're so grateful. Like whatever the cost, I choose it over and over again. Like life is such a glorious school. And, Natalie, we are just getting spanked by so many different things, and it's fantastic. Like when we started this process, I thought I was a pretty chill person. I thought that we both were pretty flexible and just like easygoing.
Oh,
Well,
that's cute,
it
isn't it?
turns out that we are both some of the most opinionated and picky people on the planet. We both attended every single meeting with the architect, every single meeting with the interior designer, because we both had strong opinions and we both wanted to weigh in, and neither of us totally trusted the other to make decisions because we both cared so much. And that was a big revelation. Like,
Mhm.
wow, I really thought I was a lot more chill than that.
Flexible. Oh,
Such,
life lessons.
such a good learning.
So true. And sometimes,
Again,
again, it's like not always like letting price be the determining factor, right? It's trusting your gut, your intuition, trusting like, oh, this is who we're the most lit up by, right? Like that helps me determine a lot or discern is like, it does what lights me up. Because the light, right? You think about light, and that's
yeah.
such a draw. But I love again, you guys look how vulnerable and open and just how healthy it is that Andy's being today. And he's like, listen, I'm learning things about myself. Turns out I'm more stubborn than I thought. I thought I was easy, chill, and go with the flow. Well, maybe not.
So somebody mentions, the arguing, it's scary because what if it escalates, or what if the communication stops, right? And so that's um, again, that's coming back to um, judging, like prejudging. You know what prejudice means? It means prejudging. And so you're prejudging the conversation before it happens. You're being prejudiced. And what instead, if you just went into every conversation with curiosity, with love, and just like, oh, it sounds like this is a really important topic to you. I'm just curious. What does that mean to you? Like Tiffany was modeling earlier, like help me understand, because apparently I'm missing something, because when I hear you say this, there's this energy, and they'll just help me understand that. And it's easy to say this right now when we're both in high vibes, and there's
And we're not triggered
we're
and
not triggered,
it's
right?
all good.
But that's really
Yeah. Yes.
that's the goal. That's the goal I go into whenever there's and also you have to be at some point you have to say, is this a hill I'm willing to die on? Like you have to pick your battles, because with this home, there have been literally a million decisions to make. And at some point you have to say, you know what? This one I'm gonna let go. Like we because we would have been divorced years ago if we chose to fight on and dig our heels in on every fight.
Mhm.
So um yeah, choosing your battles, but then also just choosing. I got emotional. Was it a week or two ago when I was talking about a podcast with Adam Miller and
Oh, yes.
Jennifer from Ice
Andy,
Life?
like that again because I loved listening to that.
Did you listen to it?
Yes, I didn't finish the whole thing, but I'll go back and finish it. But I caught probably the first 35, 40 minutes,
Okay.
30
So
minutes of it. Anyway, it was so good, Andy.
so one of the main points that Adam Miller, who's the guest on this episode, makes is, so many of us think that the deal we made when we got married was, if I give love, then I'll get love, right? They think that that's the contract, that's the deal. Like when we put our hand in their hand and we put a ring on each other's finger, we were saying, I'm going to love you and you're going to love me. And it's such a transactional way of thinking, right?
Mm.
But and full transparency, this is a very religious podcast, so it's 100% about God and how we enter into marriage with a promise to God. And so somebody's asking what the podcast was. Here's the link. Um, so what Adam Miller is proposing is, when we enter into that marriage covenant, it actually is not it has nothing to do with the promise that we made to each other, but instead the promise we made to God about how we will show up in that marriage. That's the covenant. That's the promise. It's not about I'll do this if you do that. It's saying I'm choosing into the action of love. I'm choosing into the conversation of love. I'm choosing to be love. And there's no attachments. It's not going in saying I'm going to get this and you're going to be with me, sickness or wealth or whatever. Like it's 100%. I will um, I will participate in love. And his whole theory is that that's what Jesus taught. His whole ministry was just like love is not a gift. Love is the law. Love is the activity that we engage in with the gospel. Like the whole gospel is just love. Like Tiffany said earlier, like it's the activity of love.
Mhm.
And and why would you not choose into that? Like when we choose to show up in that way, just wholehearted and and authentic and loving and no strings attached, like who doesn't want that? It's the best way to live and do friendships, do marriage, do business relationships. Um, so
Mm.
there's the link if anybody wants to tune in.
Mhm.
For those of you who are watching the recording, just Google Adam S. Miller, Jennifer Finlayson Fife. I know it's
Mhm.
kind of a mouthful, but it's the first Google result that comes up if you Google those two.
Mhm.
So,
It's so good. So we're back to this question is who do you choose to be?
mhm.
And because some of you married, single, wherever you're at with that whole conversation, wherever you're at with your business, financial, is who do you choose to be, right? What's your off? Who are you going to be? And being the offering or being the invitation. And again, back to it's always back to love. But just thinking, I hope you've been filled up today. I know I have. And I just invite you to take a deep breath and this energy, just inhale it into your body, into your cells, into your lungs, and then mentally see yourself. How do you want to go about the rest of today or even the next few hours? And whether you see someone, that you don't know, that you go on a walk after this or the grocery store, or you intentionally are going to go call or contact some people, or how you're going to be in your home, right? It's just, I'm going to be the offering of love, that invitation. And almost like sometimes, when I'm out and about and I'm in this vibe, I'm in this intention, it's almost like I see with my eyes, it's like I'm beaming love to different people and they don't even know it, right? You don't have to tell them, hey, by the way, I just beamed you some love. It's just that you're being this and we're sharing it in this way. And so, how powerful that is and how magnetic it is. This has been a rich one. Thank you, literally, for opening us up
Mhm.
into this conversation today, my friend.
Yeah, it's funny how the conversation of money has nothing to do with money. And the
Yeah.
conversation about sex has nothing to do about sex.
Hmm.
It's like, what are all the underlying things that, the means that we attach and yeah, the context and it's so good. I'm so grateful for this space and thanks for joining us for the ride, everyone.
Hmm. Have a beautiful rest of your day and week. Intentional, be intentional, right? Again and again, that's the core practice is how we're going to be online, how we're going to be in person in our homes with others. Grateful for all of you. Grateful for you, Andy. Thank you for a rich conversation.
Thank you. It's always a gift.